and welcome to Grace Tutoring. Good morning to all of my dear friends as well as my dear students. In this video lecture, I will be explaining you one of the most important part from that chapter, Federalism. Well, what is that part? How a federalism can be practiced? Well, we had already discussed what are the different or what are the various important terms related to the chapter Federalism. We also had discussed the important features of the federalism, the important features of a unitary model of the government, and this is also one of the most important part of the federalism chapter. That is, here in this video lecture, I will be explaining you that how a federalism can be practiced. Well, the federalism can be practiced basically in the three ways, in which this can be explained in such a very easy manner that there are three ways in which the federalism can be practiced. So what are the three ways? The first one is linguistic states. Let me explain you about this linguistic states, which because sometimes there may be a question in the examination. Explain the formation of the states on the basis of language in a brief, or the states were created on the basis of language. Discuss in brief. This type of the questions may come in the examination. So if those types of questions come in the examination, then how you are going to deal with? And we need to know much more about this. You know, my dear students, that the states were created on the basis of the language. But how and when? You see, this system was started in the very soon whenever the constitution came into effect in the year 1950. In the year 1950, the constitution came into effect. The Indian constitution came into force. And then the states were created, the system was started on the basis of which the states were created on the basis of the language. That means when the constitution came into effect in 1950, this system was started. Then the States Reorganization Act was passed in the year of 1956. In the year of 1956, the States Reorganization Act. In the year of 1956, States Reorganization Act was passed. Then in the year of 1953, the first state was formed on the basis of the language before the act, before the 3 years of the act passed. So in the year of 1953, the first state was formed on the basis of the language, and that state is Andhra Pradesh. So this is also very much helpful and useful to remember. The Andhra Pradesh is the first state which was formed on the basis of the language in the year of 1953, before the 3 years of the States Reorganization Act passed in the year of 1956. Well, in the year of 1950, the several boundaries of the old states of the India were changed in order to create the new states. Well, these states were created, and these states were created on the basis of the language. But there are some states which were created not only on the basis of the language, but also to recognize on the basis of their ethnicity. But also these states are formed to recognize on the basis of their ethnicity, on the basis of their culture, on the basis of their beliefs, etc. Well, however, what are these states which were created on the basis of this ethnicity? The states like Uttarakhand, and Jharkhand and Nagaland. Yes. The states like Uttarakhand, Jharkhand and Nagaland, these are the states which are created on the basis of their ethnicity, on the basis of their culture, but not on the basis of the language. That means here we need to understand that the states were not only created on the basis of the language, but also on the basis of their ethnicity. So which are the states created on the basis of their ethnicity? The states like Uttarakhand, Jharkhand, Nagaland, These are the states which were created on the basis of their ethnicity, on the basis of their culture, on the basis of their beliefs, etc. Well, however, there are some leaders. The leaders of a country feared. They feared that this would lead to the disintegration of the country. Because whenever the states were created on the basis of the language, the leaders of a country feared that this would lead to the disintegration of the country. That's why the government resisted the linguistic states for some time. But later, they could come to understand, later they could come to realize that this linguistic state has actually made the country more united and stronger. And it has also made the administration very much easier. In this way, the linguistic state is also one of the best way that how a federalism can be practiced. In order to strengthen the federalism, that the linguistic state is also one of the way which needs to be tested. And the number two that we are going to discuss is that language policy. Let me give you a brief understanding on this language policy. Well, the Constitution did not give the status of national language to any one language. The Hindi. Well, Hindi was identified as the official language, but it was spoken all over India only by the 40% of Indians. So what are the other languages? There are some other languages. There are the 21 other principal languages which also needs to be protected. And these 21 languages, including these 21 languages along with the Hindi, that means the total 22 principal languages have to be protected, have to be safeguarded. Well, so if you observe it very carefully, the Hindi is just spoken just by 40% of the Indians. So other languages are also to be protected. Well, a candidate in an examination which is conducted for the national government position may take the examination in any of the languages. And the states too have the official languages. The government also started working with the official languages concerned in that state, particularly for the good and efficient governance of that state administration. And the work will become very much easier, and the work will be done in a very quick and rapid manner. That is all about the language policy. And well, there may be a question: how can we critically evaluate the linguistic stakes? I mean, there are some points which we need to consider about. Well, according to the census of 1991, that there are many of the languages. There are approximately 1,500 languages which are recognized as the mother tongues of many of our Indians. Many of our Indians which are referred as the mother tongues. Out of those languages, there are some certain languages which are categorized into the different groups, like, these languages are categorized in the groups like Rajasthani or Bundal or Khandi. These are the major languages. And some of the languages were grouped under Hindi. And even after the group of these languages, the major languages are found to be 114. So out of this 114, the 22 languages are recognized as the principal languages, and which are mentioned in the schedule of the Constitution, and the other languages which are not mentioned in the schedule of the Constitution are known as the non-scheduled languages. So I hope it's very clear to you. And the next test, the next way that a federalism can be practiced is that center-state relations. And this is also very much important for us to know that what is the center-state relations. Well, my dear students, listen to me very carefully. The Constitution provides the power, that is the legislative power and the executive power between the center and the states. That means there is a division of the power, legislative as well as the executive power, between the center and the states. But there is no division of the judicial power between the center and the states, because the Constitution has established an integrated judicial system in which the central law as well as the state law, to enforce both the central law as well as the state law. This Constitution has established an integrated judicial system to enforce both the central law as well as the state law. And that's why the Constitution of India contain the elaborate provisions to regulate the various dimensions of the center-state relations in order to have such a very good and effective governance in the country. So how can we explain the center-state relations, and which categories the center-state relations can be broadly studied upon? Let's have a look. Well, the center-state relations can be broadly studied under three heads. Number one, legislative. And number two, administrative. And number three, financial. Yes. The center-state relation can be studied under these three heads. That is the legislative relations, administrative relations, and financial relations. Let us discuss one by one. First of all, legislative relations. The legislative relations, like the territorial extent of central and state legislation. Well, the legislative relations, what are the different aspects of the legislative relations between the center and the states? The first one is the territorial extent of the center and the state legislation. Well, the parliament can make the laws of the whole. The parliament can make the law of the part of the whole of the India. Similarly, the state legislation can also make the law of the different parts of the state as well as the territory of the different areas of that state. That means, in order to make the law in the center as well as the state, that there should be a very good relationship between the parliament as well as the state legislation. And the legislative relation, the legislative center-state relation can also be explained in the form of distribution of subjects. Yes. So distribution of subjects. There are three folds in which the subjects can be distributed. So what are the three folds? Well, the subjects can be distributed in terms of the union list. The subjects can be distributed in terms of the state list or in terms of the concurrent list. We had already discussed in the first part of this chapter, federalism. What do you mean by the union list? And the union list consists of 100 subjects, originally 97 subjects. And the state list consists of 61, originally 66, originally 61 subjects. Similarly, the concurrent list was also. The union list, there are some subjects in which the central government can make the law. So what are the subjects on which the central government can make the law? The subjects like defense, foreign affairs, currency, communication, and so on. So what are the subjects on which the state government can make the law? The subjects like maintaining the law and order within the state, commerce, trade within the state, public health, irrigation, agriculture. These are the subjects on which the central government can make the law, the state government can make the law. And the concurrent list. The concurrent list is basically, there are some subjects which is mentioned in the list, and these subjects are very common for both the center as well as the state. And in case of a conflict between the two, the central government prevails. The central law is the ultimate. The central law is the final. And the residuary subjects are also left with the center. That the distribution of the subjects, in order to implement, in order to make the laws on these subjects, the center-state relation should be very much strong enough. And, well, if we will discuss one more, that is the administrative. How the center-state relation can be explained in the administrative way? Well, the distribution of executive powers. Distribution of executive powers. So the distribution of executive powers. While the distribution of the legislative subjects, the executive power is also distributed between the center as well as the state in order to have a very good and effective governance in that system. That means the center-state relations also should be very much strong enough in the way of distributing the executive powers. Well, all India services. Yes. There are some services in the central government. There are some services in the state government. But there are some services which are common to both the center as well as the states. Those are Indian Administrative Service, Indian Police Service, Indian Forest Service. These are the services in which both the center and the state government jointly work on it. That means these are the services which is controlled jointly by both the central government as well as the state government. But the ultimate control lies upon the central government, and there are some ultimate control lies upon the central government. But the state government also can vest on these services. That is all about the all India services. And integrated judiciary. Integrated judicial system. Yes. So the integrated judicial system is also one of the way which comes under the administrative center-state relations. So what is this integrated judicial system? The Constitution has established an integrated judicial system headed by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is at the top, and the state high courts are below it. Both the central law as well as the state law are to be enforced. In this way, the center-state relation can be easily explained, and the financial center-state relations I think it's not so much essential for your standard. Well, these two things are very enough for you. That is the legislative and administrative center-state relations. I hope you understood. Once again, let me just give you a glance. In the first, we have discussed the different ways. There are the different ways in which the federalism can be practiced. The federalism can be strengthened in its practice. So what are the different ways? Linguistic states. Number 2, the language policy. And number 2, the center-state relations. And from this part, and I think very sure that some of the questions may come in the examination, like critically evaluate the linguistic states of India, or there are some questions maybe discuss in brief the language policy in India, or how can you explain the center-state relations in India, that you need to mention, you need to write the answers in such a very good way. That's why this is all about how a federalism can be practiced. And I hope you understood all. And if you are having any query or if you are having any doubt, you just please put it in the comment section so that we are able to give the answers for those questions. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good time.